What's up, y'all? It's Evan from DMV Sports Zone giving one last update before the holidays on all things DMV sports. First, we're going to start with hockey and the Washington Capitals. So Saturday was about as unpredictable as a game you could have gotten as the Caps beat the Maple Leafs 5-2 on 5 goals, all by defensemen, including a hat trick by Eric Gustafsson. The win improves the Caps to 16-13-4, 36 points, still 6th place in the Metro. So here's the week ahead for Washington. For the Capitals, the week begins tonight as they welcome in the Detroit Red Wings. The Red Wings come in at 13-11-6, 32 points. They're tied with Buffalo for 5th in the Atlantic Division. Detroit's coming off a 6-3 loss to the Senators on Sunday. They've lost 5 in a row. This is the second of 3 between the Caps and the Wings. Detroit leads the season series 1-0 after beating Washington 3-1 in Detroit on November 3rd. On Thursday, the Capitals head to Ottawa to take on the Senators. The Senators are currently 14-15-2, 30 points. They're tied with Montreal for 7th in the Atlantic Division. Ottawa's coming off a 4-2 loss in Minnesota on Sunday, in which they fell behind 3-0 after 2 periods. This is the second of 3 between the Caps and the Sens. Ottawa leads the series 1-0 after beating Washington 5-2 in Ottawa on October 20th. And for the Capitals, the week concludes on Friday when they return home to host the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets are currently 20-10-1, 41 points, 2nd place in the Central Division behind only Dallas. Winnipeg's coming off a 3-2 loss in Seattle on Sunday thanks to a game-winning goal by Jared McCann. This is the last of 2 between the Caps and the Jets. Washington leads the season series 1-0 after beating Winnipeg 5-2 in Winnipeg on December 11th. Now we move on to basketball and the Washington Wizards. So for the Wizards, it just keeps getting worse and worse by the day. The last outing, a 119-117 loss to the Lakers in LA while everybody was watching the Commanders game, and now the Wizards have lost 10 in a row. They sit at 11-20, tied with Orlando for 12th place in the Eastern Conference. Here's the week ahead for Washington. For the Wizards, the week begins on Tuesday when they head to Phoenix to take on the Suns. The Suns come in at 18-12, 4th in the West. Phoenix is coming off a 118-114 win over the Pelicans on Saturday. They've won 2 in a row. This is the first of 2 between the Wizards and the Suns. Last season, Phoenix swept the season series against Washington. On Thursday, the Wizards head to Utah to take on the Jazz. The Jazz are currently 17-15, 8th in the West. Utah is coming off a 123-97 loss in Milwaukee on Saturday, despite the fact that the Bucks didn't have Giannis Antetokounmpo. They were led by Bobby Portis with 22 points in the game. This is the last of 2 between the Wizards and the Jazz. Washington leads the season series 1-0 after beating Utah 121-112 in D.C. on November 12th. And for the Wizards, the week concludes on Friday when they head to Sacramento to take on the Kings. The Kings are currently 16-12, 5th in the West. Sacramento's coming off a 122-113 win in Detroit on Friday. They've won 2 in a row. This is the first of 2 between the Wizards and the Kings. Last season, Sacramento swept the season series against Washington. And now we move over to college basketball and the 6th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers down 4 spots from last week's rankings. Virginia only played 1 game last week, a 69-61 shortcoming to number 5 Houston, thanks to 17 points by Jarris Waller. The loss drops the Cavaliers to 8-1, still 1-0 in the ACC. They currently sit at 3rd place in the conference standings. So here's the week ahead for the Wahoos. For Virginia, only 1 game this week. That's Tuesday when they head to Miami to take on the 22nd-ranked Miami Hurricanes. Miami comes in at 11-1, 2-0 in the ACC, 1st place in the conference standings. The Hurricanes are coming off a 91-76 win over St. Francis, Pennsylvania on Saturday. They've won 7 in a row and they're undefeated in the month of December. This is the only meeting this season between Virginia and Miami. Up next, let's talk about the 21st-ranked Virginia Tech Hokies, up 4 spots from last week's poll. Virginia Tech only 1 game this past week, a 74-48 win over Grambling State on Saturday. The win improves the Hokies to 11-1, still 1-0 in the ACC, 2nd place in the conference standings behind only Miami, who you just heard about, and they've won 6 in a row, still undefeated in the month of December. Here's the week ahead for the Hokies. For Virginia Tech, only 1 game this week. That's Wednesday when they head to Chestnut Hill to take on the Boston College Eagles. Boston College comes in at 6-6, 0-1 in the ACC, 13th place in the conference standings. The Eagles coming off a 63-56 win over Stonehill on Tuesday, thanks to 16 points by Jaden Zachary. This is the first of 2 between Virginia Tech and Boston College. Up next, let's talk about the Maryland Terrapins, who fell out of the rankings after 3 weeks in the AP poll. Maryland played one game this week. They got humbled, and they got humbled hard. An 87-60 loss to number 16 UCLA on Wednesday, in a game which they trailed by as many as 40, and they've lost 3 in a row now. The loss drops the Terrapins to 8-3, still 1-1 in the Big Ten, and ninth place in the conference standings. Here's the week ahead for the Terps. For Maryland, only one game this week. That's Thursday when they host the St. Peter's Peacocks. St. Peter's is currently 6-5. The Peacocks are coming off a 63-56 win over Quinnipiac on Sunday, and they've won 2 in a row. And finally, let's talk about the Georgetown Hoyas. So for Georgetown, conference play began with a whimper on Friday, a 102-89 loss to Xavier. The loss drops the Hoyas to 5-7, 0-1 in the Big East. They've lost 2 in a row and sit at last place in the conference standings. Here's the week ahead for G-Town. And for Georgetown, only one game this week. That's on Tuesday when they welcome in the second-ranked Connecticut Huskies. UConn comes in at 12-0, 1-0 in the Big East, and first place in the conference standings. UConn is coming off a 68-46 win at Butler on Saturday, and this is the first of 2 between Georgetown and UConn. And that'll do it for this update, but stay tuned for plenty of great content from Noah, Nani, and Abdullah as they cover our Commanders ahead of their big must-win showdown on Christmas Eve as they head to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Until then, I'm Evan Johnson wishing you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and everything else you celebrate, and I will be with you the day after Christmas.